Hey, what's up everyone? This is kind of a different, video from my typical ones. It's not going to be a performance review. If you do want me to do a performance review on these, I'd be happy to. Just let me know in the comments and I'll throw one out there. Just to summarize though, I got them for like, I don't know, like 50 bucks at an outlet, and I think they're barely worth that, to be honest with you. $180 for these is just insane. They're not worth that at all. They're basically like your run-of-the-mill average basketball shoes, in my opinion. Nothing fantastic. They're not bad, but they're not worth 180 bucks. So yeah, if you want me to do a full review, just let me know. I did want to do a reaction to Kevin Durant leaving OKC and joining Golden State. So we've had a lot of time to process this information, and media members and athletes and all these people are putting their thoughts out there and responding. And there's just a couple of things that I wanted to discuss and point out from my perspective and kind of put out there as well. So yes, it's going to be a really long video. It's probably going to be about 25-30 minutes before we get done. So I don't know how long it's going to be right now, but yeah, that's what it's going to be about. Just me talking, and I'm just putting these shoes here so you guys have something to look at. I might, change it up a little bit with some visuals, but nothing crazy because I don't have any editing skills whatsoever. So yeah, I just wanted to do a reaction video and address a couple of points that Stephen A. Smith made in his videos as well. So I'm going to break it up into different segments. Speculation as to why he left, aside from the really obvious points of wanting to win a championship. Then I'll talk a little bit about loyalty in pro sports, and then Stephen A. Smith's points about joining Golden State as opposed to other teams. And then he also made some comparisons for the modern NBA versus the past NBA, as well as LeBron's situation when he left Cleveland and compared to Durant's situation now leaving OKC. So that's kind of the topics that I wanted to discuss in this video. Okay, so just to get it off right off the bat, I'm not a huge OKC or KD fan. I'm not a diehard fan of either. Casual fan of both. I'll root for them against certain teams, but I'm a Portland Trailblazers fan, and I also like the San Antonio Spurs, so those are kind of my teams. I'm not a huge OKC or KD fan, or Golden State or Curry. Just a casual fan of those teams and players, and I'll root for them against some teams, and again, when they're playing Portland or San Antonio, I might root against them. So that's kind of where I stand, just to get that out of the way. So looking at some speculation as to why he left, again, aside from the obvious reason of really wanting to secure a championship with Golden State, I think we need to keep one thing in mind before we discuss anything else, and that's, I don't think Kevin Durant is really a bad guy. That's something that's kind of being overlooked a little bit. I remember his MVP speech from a couple of seasons ago, I think, where he, I got really emotional watching that. Like, he was thanking his teammates and his mom, and when he thanked his mom, I was tearing up, And I think most people who have like a decent relationship with their mom probably feel the same way. So I don't think he's a bad, based on what we can see, like the charitable work he does and all the stuff he's done for OKC and their community. I just don't think he's a bad guy, and a lot of people are making it out to be like he's some kind of villain or something like that. Just throw Kylo Ren in there. Like, he's not Kylo Ren, like this really evil person or anything like that. He's just leaving OKC to join Golden State. So let's keep that in mind. We're not him. We're not Kevin Durant. We don't know what was pitched to him. We don't know what the teams that he met with said, and their representatives and his teammates and the coaches and his family and friends and advisors and his team. We don't know any of that stuff from his perspective. Remember, Kevin Durant is pretty much the center of all of this, so it is his decision, but we don't know all of that stuff that he went through with, what I just mentioned. So I don't think he's like a villain or anything like that. Other reasons, I think coaching and organization is not really being mentioned a lot here. Billy Donovan came in to replace Scott Brooks, rookie head coach. They really found their rhythm, I think, towards the end of the season and in the playoffs, obviously. I think losing a 3-1 lead, I would hold Durant and Westbrook the most accountable for that, for sure. But I think Billy Donovan is also partly to blame. If you lose a 3-1 lead, you can't let your team do that. So I think that's part of the reason. And him coming in to replace Scott Brooks didn't really seem to make that much of a difference. So I think that's a contributing factor. As well as the organization itself, I don't think they're completely blameless. The Thunder, the OKC Thunder, they knew going into this that Kevin Durant was going to be courted by elite teams, that they were going to do their best to get him to sign with them. They knew that going in. So if you know that your presentation and your moves, your decisions have to be that much better than everybody else's. It has to be to the point where Durant won't even consider leaving, right? Because the situation just looks so much better there at OKC than other places. And clearly that's not what happened. Obviously, I think they did what they could, and it's going to be Durant's decision in the end. But, you know, after all the chips fell, just looking at it, they had home court advantage, and clearly whatever they did just wasn't enough compared to what other teams had to offer. So I think they're also a little bit to blame, if that sounds a little bit unreasonable. And finally, Russell Westbrook. I think this him leaving OKC is a huge statement. I think Durant's going to say all the right things about Westbrook, and I think he believes that. He really feels that way, that he really loves Westbrook like a brother, and they have no personal issues whatsoever. But him leaving, the action of him leaving OKC is a huge statement about Russell Westbrook. It really is, if you think about that, because he's basically acknowledging that he doesn't think he can win a title with playing with Russell Westbrook. That's basically what he's saying. He's going to go leave and join a team, you know, one of their strongest rivals in Steph Curry, and you know, there's so much competition and drama with these two teams and their players. It's a huge statement. It really is. I think he's kind of acknowledging that he doesn't have a confidence in winning a title with playing next to Russell Westbrook. I think it's basically comes down to their on-court chemistry, and that's been said a lot. But let's go a little bit deeper here. I think you know, they're two of the top talents in the world. But just because you throw them together doesn't mean you're guaranteeing success, you're guaranteeing titles or championships. So obviously they've had a lot of time together. If you look at like the Miami Super Teams, they lost in their first and last finals. And if you look at the Lakers, that's a common example with Peyton and Malone joining them towards the end of their careers. They didn't win in the finals either. So you can't just throw like top talent together. You know, the USA Basketball turned around because they had a pretty big, I think it was like the bronze medal, right, that year. So even though Durant and Westbrook had been together for what, like 8 years now, something like that, I don't think they can maximize their potential together, and it's primarily just their styles. Westbrook to me is just too physically gifted, too dominant, to simply be a distributor. Imagine Chris Paul leading the Thunder, and I think you'd see a very different team. You know, he'd be running a lot of pick and rolls with Adams, getting the alley-oops, getting Dion Waiters open shots and Serge Ibaka open shots, much like he does for Blake Griffin and DeAndre Jordan and JJ Redick, right? But to me, Russell Westbrook is simply too physically dominant, so he just has too much ability to take over a game. And that's why it's hard for him to be primarily a distributor. So even though he has that potential to take over games and this just crazy athleticism, he also has the potential to make really bad mistakes, right? So he'll be amazing one moment, and he'll just make a play that just, you know, stops the whole court. Everybody's just, their jaws drop, and you know, there's no way that anybody can do that except for Westbrook. And then the very next possession, he'll do something equally amazing, but in a negative way, like a really game-ending decision, like a turnover or a bad shot or a forced three or something like that, or gambling for a steal. So he's kind of his own worst enemy at times, where he'll just do something really amazing one moment and then equally bad the next moment. He's just too erratic, I think. And I think that's another reason why, clearly, why Durant wanted to leave, even though he didn't say that. Him leaving is a huge statement about his feelings towards his ability to win championships with Westbrook. So, and another thing about Westbrook is there were too many games where he had more shot attempts than Kevin Durant. That's just, to me, unacceptable when Kevin Durant's on your team and your point guard, no matter who it is getting more shot attempts. Maybe if Durant's limited, you know, his injury or his playing time is limited or something like that, I could understand that. But really, there's just no excuse for why your point guard should have more shot attempts than Kevin Durant. Again, unless there's reasons for it, like he's getting doubled or something like that. And finally, maybe this sounds kind of crazy, but maybe Durant was just bored in OKC. I know that sounds kind of strange because they're really competitive and competing for titles year in and year out. But to me, he mentioned getting out of his comfort zone in his letter in the Players Tribune, and that sounds like semi-valid, but there is some truth to that. I've seen some weird comments recently online on Facebook and stuff about the culture in Oklahoma, and I don't know because I don't live there, and some of you guys know the area, maybe you can chime in, but you know, I've seen things about like Confederate flags flying around and Klan meetings and crazy stuff like this. So I don't know what's going on in terms of that sense, but maybe he just wanted to change of environment. He wanted to play with a different roster. You know, for us, for when I play pickup games, we mix up the teams pretty much after every game. I can't imagine playing with the same guys over and over and over for years on end, you know, going to practices and meetings and, you know, hotels and stuff like that. So maybe he was just bored. I have no idea. Sorry, so let's move on to the next point here. I want to talk a little bit about loyalty in pro sports. This is a concept that came up, you know, with Durant, like, is he being disloyal by leaving? I think loyalty, personally, it's just a really silly idea. We'll get Kylo Ren out of there. I just think it's a silly idea, personally, because it's, you know, it's like the exception to the rule. Pro sports is definitely a business, and you know, loyalty to me is a little bit laughable. If you look at LeBron James going back to Cleveland, that's great, but remember he left to go to Miami in the first place. And then speaking of Miami, look at what happened with them and Dwayne Wade right now. Like, you know, are we really talking about loyalty in this business, you know? I think if you look at guys like Duncan, Tim Duncan, Kobe Bryant, and Dirk Nowitzki, they're really like the exceptions. And I think even Kobe was considering leaving the Lakers at one point. And then Duncan and Nowitzki might be two rare examples of guys and franchises really doing whatever they can to stay together and work together to be competitive. So really, they're the exceptions, though. More often than not, it doesn't really work that way. People have to do what's best for their family, and franchises will do what's best for themselves, right? We'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. Another good example would be the New England Patriots in football. They're really famous for being like kind of ruthless in that way, and as soon as the player is not really of service anymore, or their production starts to drop, or you know, whatever it is, they're just cut or traded, you know, and they're kind of famous for that. I guarantee you, if Tom Brady is as huge as he is in New England, once you start to see a drop in his production, which we're going to at some point, right? New England's going to take a look at him. They're gonna talk about doing something with him, guaranteed. That's just how it works in this business. So, right, we saw that with Peyton Manning in Indianapolis. So, okay, and talking about like the loyalty from the organization's perspective, I mean, it's crazy, right? Because they're already talking about trying to trade Russell Westbrook as soon as Durant leaves. It's not a question. I mean, I think they're going to do whatever they can to keep him, but that comes up really fast. It's like, what can we do to help our organization first, right? Regardless of who the players are, we need to think about what's best for the organization. Think about Golden State, the team that's getting Kevin Durant. They got rid of Andrew Bogut and Harrison Barnes to make room, right? Two of these players who helped them win a championship in 2015 and win 73, you know, games last season, right? They're gone to make room for Kevin Durant. So I think this idea of loyalty is kind of like a fantasy when we're talking about pro sports. I think people need to kind of get it out of their heads. It's not really, it's a nice kind of honorable idea, but it's not really, you know, based in reality, if you ask me. Okay, so moving on to some of the points that Stephen A. Smith made. The first one that I want to discuss is Kevin Durant going to Golden State versus other teams. And Stephen A. Smith can be really picky. I guess he picks and chooses, and really everybody does. But I saw some flaws in the logic here, because he had a problem with Kevin Durant. He didn't have a problem with him leaving OKC. He had a problem with him joining Golden State. But then at the same time, when he compared Kevin Durant and LeBron James, he did have a problem with him leaving OKC, because he brought up LeBron James's roster when he originally left Cleveland and how there was no talent, and then Kevin Durant's roster when he's leaving now and the amount of talent there is. So I think he kind of has to pick his side there. Is it okay for him to leave OKC or not, and just stick with that? But he had the problem with him joining Golden State over other teams, which to me doesn't really make much sense. I understand that Golden State is the team that beat OKC this season, and also their consecutive finals, and you know, they're a really good team. So I get that. But at the same time, he also met with the Spurs and the Clippers, other contenders, and to me, joining one of those teams would have been just as bad, because basically he's joining a conference rival to strengthen their team and make them title favorites, and weakening Oklahoma City. So I don't really see a huge difference there. To me, the way I see it is they're all equally acceptable, or they're all equally unacceptable, depending on what your stance is there. That's just my perspective, because again, he's going to a rival team. He's going to make them title favorites and at the same time weaken OKC. So does it really matter if he goes to the Spurs, who are championship contenders every year, the Clippers, or the Warriors? They're all championship contenders, and it would all weaken OKC's position in the Western Conference, to me. So I don't really see the reasoning behind that argument there. I think one thing to remember here too that's not really being talked about, all of these teams wanted Kevin Durant. Golden State wanted him. San Antonio, the Clippers, Miami, all Boston, they all wanted Kevin Durant. And what does that mean? Like, if you're going to blame KD and attack him and criticize him, okay, fine. But I think you have to do the same thing for the teams that wanted him as well. Like, if you're a fan of these teams, they're going to do what they have to get Kevin Durant there. Think about that. All of these players in these teams, they're doing their best to beat Kevin Durant and the Thunder one season, and the very next season they're saying, you know what, but you're so good, we recognize how good you are, we want you on our team, you want to come play for us. When they're meeting with Golden State, and Steve Kerr's going, and they ask Stephen Curry, hey, we're going to go pitch Kevin Durant, you want to go? Absolutely, I'm in. Clay, Draymond, Andre Iguodala, you guys want to go talk to Kevin Durant about, I know we just beat them in, a fierce rivalry and blah, blah, blah. You want to go recruit him? You want to go to this meeting? Absolutely, let's go get him. We want to play with Kevin Durant. Think about that. If you're a Golden State fan, if you're a Spurs fan and Clippers, your team, your organization was going to do the same thing, right? They're trying their best to beat this guy when they're on opposite teams, but now when he's a free agent, they want to go get him, right? Your best players are saying, yes, we want this guy. So if you're a Golden State hater, that kind of gives you more fuel, because for how good they are, they still said, and we want Kevin Durant still. We're going to do what we have to get him here. We won 73 games, 2 consecutive finals. Yeah, we still want him. That's kind of, to me, it doesn't make sense to just put all the blame on Kevin Durant. And if you are a player, it's hard to resist that, like if you're a pickup basketball player, like most of us probably are, and you just get your butts kicked by a really good team and they lose somebody and they ask you, hey, you want to run with us? Chances are you're going to say yes. You're not going to be like, no, I'm going to sit it out. And some people are like that. They really play with their friends, and they want to play with their team, and that's great. But a lot of times it's hard to say no when a good team, that a good team wants you, and your chances of winning and staying on the court increase. It's hard to kind of resist that, right? So again, who wouldn't be happy to have Kevin Durant? All of these teams would be happy to have him. So, okay. And then finally, the last 2 points. I think we need to stop comparing the past NBA to the NBA in modern times. It's just a silly thing to me. There's you just can't pick and choose your talking points, right? Everything's different, right? Modern NBA, Mike Conley, $150 million, 5 years. Like, it's astounding to me. Chandler Parsons, max deal. Dwight Howard, max deal. That is the modern NBA. Okay, there's players I haven't even heard of that are getting like crazy amounts of money. That's what's happening. We can't compare them anymore. They're way too different. Salary caps are different. The way teams are organized and run, the culture, the dress codes and codes of conduct and all of this stuff, the media availability, everything is so different about today's NBA. I don't think we can, I think it's okay to compare them, but in some ways it's kind of pointless, because that's the point here. Some people are saying, oh, but Isaiah Thomas and Michael Jordan and Larry Bird, they never would have done this or done that. Yeah, back then, but you don't know what they would have done now. Modern NBA, LeBron James does that, right? Kevin Durant does that. That's the culture that's being created by the greatest players in the game today, right? That's what's happening. You see Chris Paul and LeBron and Dwayne Wade and Melo in the offseason and vacation hanging out together. That's what the modern NBA is. Okay, I think we just need to let go of this, oh, but in the past it used to be like this and that, and that's true, that's great, but it's just, what are we really talking about here, right? Okay, and finally, LeBron leaving Cleveland the first time, the only time I should say, and well, for now, and then Kevin Durant leaving OKC, right? How do these things compare? To me, there are more similarities than differences, honestly. Obviously, how they left is really, really different. LeBron's decision, and also the rosters that they were leaving behind, and then the teams that they're joining. But I think overall there are more similarities and differences. It's hard not to compare the two, because they're two of the best players in the world leaving the franchises that drafted them to join a super team, right? I think the thing to take away from this is that winning is going to cure pretty much everything. That winning is going to solve a lot of this, or reduce a lot of this noise. So some people are just LeBron haters, fact of life, he's a polarizing person, famous athlete, no matter what he does, right or wrong. Some people out there are still going to hate him, no biggie, that's just life, right? But after he won with the Heat, the 2 titles, and now with Cleveland, I think that was more significant than anything else that he's ever said or done to get people to like him or dislike him. The winning, the titles. That's what we're gonna remember. That's what we're gonna take away from it when his career's over and the history books are written and it's all said and done. Sorry, change up the scenery a little bit. You can see the Euro sign there. Well, not really. That's what we're gonna remember here, is that, you know, he's a 3-time champion. So he's the greatest small forward of all time, one of the best players of all time. We don't really, I mean, the question is there, like, how many rings did he win without being part of a big 3 or a super team? But we don't really care about that. What we care about is that he's a 3-time champion. That's the first thing that we associate with LeBron James, is that. So I think winning is going to really overshadow pretty much everything else. Like, if you're a pickup player, or even from, you know, like the higher levels to leagues and high school, college, and whatever, professional levels, winning is pretty much the reason you do it. Obviously, people want to get paid and be famous, and okay, that's great. But for the majority of us, there's a reason why you're going out there and sweating and working so hard, playing defense and communicating, risking injury and so on. It's because you want to win. You don't go out there to purposely lose and turn the ball over and help the other team, right? So you want to win. Remember Kobe when he was accused of sexual assault? I mean, geez, what he did was so much worse than what Durant's doing right now. But it's kind of a footnote. The beef that he had with Shaq, those things are kind of footnotes in his career. Remember how celebrated he was last season in his retirement, right? We just know Kobe as a 5-time champion, like Jordan's, you know, kind of heir. That's what we remember Kobe for. So I think winning really cures a lot. I don't know if that's good or bad, but that's just kind of seems to be the case, right? So I think at some point, if and when Kevin Durant wins a title, that's how we're going to refer to Kevin Durant, as a champion. And all of these attacks and criticisms, they're definitely going to linger, like they'll be attached to it, but they'll be a lot harder to notice at that point because, you know, crowd's going to be cheering, he's going to have the trophy over his head, might be the finals MVP. All of these attacks and criticisms will look a lot smaller and they'll be a lot harder to notice then, except for the most passionate KD haters, just like the LeBron haters and Kobe haters today, right? So overall, personally, I like the decision. I like it a lot. I just think it's going to be really entertaining. And to me, like, I liked when LeBron went to Miami. I didn't like how he handled that process. I thought it was kind of like being a diva. But I like the decision a lot. I like him saying, I'm going to go play with Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh. What are you guys going to do about it? We're going to win multiple titles. Who's going to stand in our way? Who's going to take us down? You know, it's kind of a challenge. Kevin Durant's kind of doing a similar thing. It does take a strange kind of courage in a sense. I know people are saying he's a coward and he's weak, but he's not an idiot. Like, you have to know, if he joins Golden State, he's going to get a lot of heat for it, right? A lot of people are going to come after him and say, oh, you don't have the heart of a champion and blah, 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 all these kinds of things. He knows that, and he still did it anyways. To me, he's like, so what? We're going to be the best team. Who's going to beat us? You know, like, come try it. Come take us down. And I like that. Alright, sorry about that, you guys. My camera overheated. So anyways, and changed the visual a little bit. I'm sorry, it's really boring. So just wrapping up the video, I like the decision. I think he's kind of challenging the rest of the league, really, to say, what are you guys going to do about it? Like, come beat us. And I want the other teams to step up and have that same attitude. Like, you guys think you're just entitled now and you're the favorites and all this stuff and you're forming a super team? Well, guess what? We're going to be the ones to take you down. I want the Spurs and the Clippers and these other teams to say that and have that attitude, like, we need to beat these guys. We need to show the world that we're better than them. So I really like that kind of that challenge and that attitude. I think it's going to be interesting and entertaining to watch Golden State next season, obviously. The pecking order, like, who's going to get the shots, who's going to have the ball in their hands in the close games and the end of the games, you know. I don't think they're going to have a problem, honestly, because I think most of them are unselfish and they promote a certain kind of attitude over there in Golden State. So I think they're going to be fine. But it's going to be really interesting to watch. And also, when they meet OKC for at least one season, I can't wait to see these games because we've never seen Westbrook and Durant go against each other. Obviously, we've seen, you know, like LeBron and Carmelo go at it, and Dwayne Wade and LeBron, Chris Paul, and Curry, and the best players in the world play against each other. But we've never seen Durant and Westbrook play against each other, and we're finally going to get a chance to see that. I can't wait to see what's going to happen. There's going to be moments in the game when they're going to be matched up against each other, and I think it's just going to be a really special moment in basketball. How Westbrook is going to attack Durant and how Durant tries to stop him and responds, and vice versa. I just think it's going to be an amazing thing to see, so I can't wait to see that. Okay, sorry for the really long video, and I know it's, you know, not a review like I usually do. any comments or you guys want to start discussion in the comment section, feel free, go ahead. Let's just try to keep it civilized, try to be adults about it, no need for insults and swear words, right? My next video for review will probably be the Crazy Light Boost 2016, as soon as I can find a colorway that I actually like, maybe the Hardened USA colorway. Not really a fan of the launch colorways, so that's probably going to be my next review, and that's the only thing I'm really interested in at the moment. So thank you guys very much for watching. Sorry for the really long-winded, you know, just really boring video probably, so, but I warned you guys at the beginning, right? So all right, I'll see you guys next time. Again, thanks very much for watching, and take care. See you.